Today I'm going to talk about using Git and GitHub for version control. These are two different but related programs that you can use to track the versions of software projects that you're working on, as well as other types of documents. You may be working on a project and you want to go back to different versions of it after you've made certain changes. And before using something like Git, you had to maybe save old versions in different folders on your computer just so you'd be able to go back to it. So this offers sort of an easy built-in way to be able to do that. It takes a little bit to get all the elements set up. And then github.com is this really nice place on the web that you can go and look at other people's code. People post things to public repositories. You can see the projects that they've worked on. You can fork their code so that you can bring the code to your computer, work on it yourself. And oftentimes people will make improvements to someone's code and do a pull request and send it to them so that they can incorporate it. So it really helps this open source culture of the internet and of software development. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you have Git on your computer. If you've installed other things like Xcode, you may already have it. And to be able to tell that, you would come over here and just check on this version. So git --version and see which version you have. I have version 2, which was what was installed when I did this release. If yours is less than version 2, you probably want to upgrade it. So you would download it. You come to here, to this website here, this git-scm.com/downloads, and you can download it. And then usually you have to close your terminal and open it back up and then check the version again. If that still doesn't work, it's probably because your path is not set properly to be able to access the path that is that Git is installed in. And that's something you have to do if you want to work with a program on the command line. So first of all, we can say which Git, and it tells us what the path is. Now, when I first did this, this was not my path. It was like something like user bin. I don't even think it was user local bin. It might have been user source bin. And so that was the place where it wasn't being updated with the new version. So I had to do a little Googling around and find some instructions to be able to update the path. And I've had to do it before for other software programs. It's a fairly common thing. So I'll take you through the steps, and if anybody has a question about it, I can help you. I have some cheat notes right here. We're going to use the terminal to open up a program called Nano. And so we just type in Nano, and then we're going to modify the bash profile. I know it looks scary. It's going to open this program here. And this is this line of code that actually appends to the path that's already there, the new path that we want it to include. And I'm sure you can go online and find this. That you can copy and paste it, or you can stop the program here and copy it down. But you would just insert, paste this whole line that says export path, and then the whole path here. And when you insert that, you would say Command O to save it, and then you'd have to hit Enter to confirm the save, and Control exit. Did I say Control O? It's Control O to save, then confirm it, and then Control X to exit Nano. So I'm going to say Control X, and I'm back out. So give that a try. You may have a little trouble with that, and that's maybe the hardest part of this whole thing. GitHub.com. And again, this is like a social network for programmers, for software developers. And you would come here and you pick a username, give it your email and your password, and then you'll be logged in. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with mine. And when you get into GitHub, you'll see something that looks like this that gives you an idea of the kind of things that you can do. So when you're in your own GitHub page, it would be github.com/your username. You won't have any repositories to start out with, but that's what we'll do for the first thing. I've got my cheat notes up here. First thing I need to do is navigate to that directory. So I'll just say CD so I know that I'm at the top, and I'll do an ls to list. And I know I want to be in documents. And I have a lot of things in documents, so if I list that, it's going to be a lot of things, but I am looking for this bootstrap template, so I just need to CD into that. And I can see what's in that by hitting ls. But the folder itself is what I want to make a Git repository. So I'm going to say git init because that initializes it as a repository. And I had already initialized it before, so it's telling me that's already initialized. And then I want to be able to add these files, the entire folder. So I'm going to say git add, and I'll hit the dot, and that will add all the files in the folder. And if you get nothing, that means it worked. Now we want to commit this. So it's git commit, and we want to give it a commit message. That's what the M means. And in quotation marks, I say Bootstrap template for web design class. And this just went to a new line because it ran out of room down there. Okay. So those were all committed, and it looked like it worked. It said 3 files were changed. After we do our git commit, we want to do a git remote add origin. And in that, we want to say the URL that we want it to go to. So I'm going to take it to github.com/Cindy Royal, and I want to name it bootstrap template.git. That's the file format that you use. So let's see if this works. Okay, that looked like it worked. So before we can go ahead with this repository on GitHub, we need to first create it. So there's a create new plus sign here. You click on that. You say new repository, and I'm going to call this one bootstrap template. And I'm going to keep it public, and I'm not going to initialize this one with a README because I want to put existing files that I have up there. So I'm going to create repository, and so now that's created. And then I should be able to go ahead with the next file command here called git push origin master. After we had added and committed and set up the remote, now this should work. It's pushing it to our online repository. We see it counting the objects, uploading and writing. Looks like everything's working, so we have a new branch to our master, and if we come over here and refresh this page, we should now, yes we do, see that all my files associated with my Bootstrap template have now been uploaded to the site. And you can click fork, and you can actually get a copy of it to your own Bootstrap. I wouldn't want to do it to my own because I have it, but I could go to somebody else's and I could click fork, and then I'd have a copy of someone else's there. And I can make a comment about any issues that I'm having when I start working on it. And I can generate a pull request if I have an update that I'd like the owner of that file to consider. So let's do one more. I want to upload to a repository some of the things that we've been working on in our class. So while I'm still here in github.com, I'll add the new repository. And I'm going to name it Coding for Com. And it's going to be public, and I don't need a README in it for now. I can add one later if I need to. So we're going to create that repository called Coding for Com, and we're here and we're in it, and it's cool, and it's telling me what I need to do. So I also created a folder that has called Coding for Com on my desktop that has a couple of the presentations I gave in the class, the charting exercise in a PDF, and then the chart.html that it creates when you go through that exercise, if you remember that we did this early in the semester. So let's try the exercise to get this one up to that Coding for Com repository and to create a local repository for it. So first thing I need to do, let's cd to our home directory. We know it's the home directory because it has things like desktop and documents in it. Then I want to cd to documents, and if I ls that, if I go all the way up to the top, I should see Coding for Com because that's where I created this. Coding for Com, not a folder, Coding for Com. So we should be able to then cd into that. Cd Coding for Com. And ls that, and we have those 4 files in it. So we want to init first, git init this folder, and it initialized it, so that's great. Then, again, I'm cheating. I want to go over here and do the add. So git add all the files. Git add, I'm going to add all the files in this folder. That's what the dot stands for. I could also put an individual file if I wanted to. And it added it. Then we need to commit it. Git commit m -m for the message. So this is going to be our commit statement. This is exercises and presentations for coding class. And like that. And it did that and committed them. And so then we have to connect to the remote. So it's git remote add origin. And we should have the origin out there, https://github.com/Cindy Royal in my case, /coding4com.git, because I know that that's the file format that it uses. So let's see what happens here. Looks like it took it. And then I say git push origin master, and hopefully it will push that repository from my computer to GitHub. And it's writing it. And we just need to wait a second for it to complete it. Total of 6 files, and it created a new branch. So if I refresh the page here on GitHub, I now see my 4 files there. So that worked very, very nicely. And again, you could come along and fork that if you wanted to. Somebody else could. They could clone it and be able to use it for their own purposes if they wanted to. And really the main benefit of using GitHub is it makes you part of the community of developers. So now people can be like, oh, Cindy Royal has a GitHub. Let's see the kind of work she does. Let's look at the things that she works on. And then the final thing I just should add is that the real power of this is when you have multiple people working on the same project. Right now we've been working pretty individually, and the benefit of this for you is just if you need to go back to a previous version. But if you have multiple people working on a project, people need to be able to check out files, work on them individually, and then they need to come together at some point. Sometimes people have a development server and a production server, so that they have one server where everybody's working together, and you would be able to set up a place on a server as a Git repository for people to check things in and check things out. And then eventually, when the project is done, you would post this on a production server that would be more of something that would be live on the web. So what I've just shown you is a very beginning look at how you can start using GitHub. But I think it's still very, very valuable for you to be able to take a look at it, take a look at what other people are contributing, and go ahead and mark your spot on github.com to be able to share your coding projects.